There's a lot of conversation about content creators going broke. There are a lot of content creators that's going broke, but I guess it's a little different for me.
I'm Nyla Says, and this isn't just a gossip channel. Over here, we analyze, we contextualize, and we weaponize wisdom. Because gossip is entertainment, but understanding is power. Because every scandal has a lesson. So let's get to it. So listen, I am not going to hold you because I already know why you're here. You're here because you're caught up in this messy algorithm that is all things Anton Daniels. And baby, when I tell you I'm cool with it, Muffin, I am cool with By now, you know, especially after the Corey Holcomb versus Anton Daniels situation, that YouTube has a full ecosystem of ego, baby, power, humiliation, retaliation, and a whole audience theater. Baby, at this point, the situation surrounding Anton Daniels, it isn't just YouTube drama anymore. This is literally turning into a case study in what happens when ego, power, and the internet collide. We've got doxing accusations, criminal records being pulled up, creators threatening each other, lawsuits being thrown around like confetti, and somewhere in the middle of all of this, people are asking a bigger question. And that is, how did the Millionaire Morning Show turn into the internet's messiest bitch fest? So this whole situation really started when Anton Daniels appeared on the Corey Holcomb 5150 show. Now, if you know anything about Corey Holcomb, you already know the energy over there is chaotic, to say the least. And during that appearance, things got heated real quick. Baby, both Corey and Anton was out there with their beta male boots on, just acting a damn fool. This literally started a windfall of all type of investigations and retaliatory commentary. Baby, it was a mess and lit for the content creators. When I tell you, we were eating. Now, the main thing that happened with that whole Corey Holcomb situation wasn't even the fight between him and Anton. What really set things off was that Corey Holcomb exposed what people were alleging was Anton Daniels' side chick, Mika.
I'm gonna let you land because I don't want to talk over you.
I'm trying to understand it. Why is everything gay?
I can explain.
Prove my point.
I got shit to do.
You right.
Don't bring bitches up here, dog, that you ain't finna stand on.
Right.
Remember I told you that. If you got a bitch with you, explain the bitch.
And baby, after that, the bitch definitely got explained. In fact, this is the channel that actually revealed her husband and some more stuff. Like I said, I'll link it down in the comments. And so after that bitch was explained, there was another bitch to explain, Island Girl Q. But what's important here is that by this point, the backlash was in full force, okay? People that used to be on his panel started coming out of the woodwork, honey. They were going in. The people that had proximity to him, that worked with him, the people that he claimed was going to benefit from being around his platform. They all started to speak out, and suddenly it looked like Anton Daniels was taking L after L online. Now, initially, people thought that Corey Holcomb was the one that was going to come out of this looking like the villain, especially once his past pedophile commentary started resurfacing. But the internet has a funny way of shifting narratives, because while all this was happening, something else was starting to get under Anton's skin. His former panelists began growing their own platforms, and one in particular, honey, started gaining so much traction, and the reason people were paying attention is because he had something most commentators didn't have. He had direct access and personal insight, and Anton didn't like that much. So Freezy starts gaining traction, it starts getting ugly, and baby, it starts to escalate. Freezy's interviewing other panelists. A lot of hypocritical, inappropriate things got exposed, and that's when things started to escalate. Anton Daniels literally crashed out and doxed a creator by the name of Freezy No Captivity. He posted a very old mugshot of Freezy and began discussing his criminal record, threatening him, threatening his family, saying that he knew where he was at, all manner of crazy stuff. Now, it's really kind of grimy and weird that Anton would do something like that. Threaten another content creator, dox them. I mean, doxing happens, but typically it's retaliatory after a long series of bullying and harassment, or it's like these struggle streamers, these people that can't grow a platform who nobody pays attention to. Sometimes that's the only way that they can get people to pay attention to them is by doxing others. And most of the time, to be honest, doxing is lie doxing. We'll talk about that another time. But anyway, it was a low blow. And I'm like, dude, are you serious? And then 24 hours later, after putting Freezy's mugshot out there and crashing out, Anton Daniels showed up in my husband's comment section. Now, for those of you who don't know my husband, his name is Taz and his channel is The GOAT Debater. And he posted commentary about the situation based on opinions formed from the things that Anton himself had already said publicly. But Muffin, Anton jumped in those comments threatening to sue him. But baby, my husband did not give a goddamn honey. It was actually an honor. We're tired of broke people trying to dox us and slander us. But the bigger point is now that the situation has escalated again, honey, because Anton Daniels has now also exposed another creator, put out a book that she wrote, talked about her criminal record, and I believe someone said, but I can't verify this, he may have actually put out a mugshot of her as well, but I'm not sure. It kind of looked mugshotty, but I'm not sure. And this is where things start to get interesting, because when a woman is involved, the audience tends to respond very differently to doxing, and that's what we're watching right now. Criticism turns into retaliation. Retaliation turns into escalation. And before you know it, what started as online commentary turns into a full-blown internet war. Now, psychologically, there's actually a term for what we sometimes see happen in situations like this, and it's called ego collapse, baby. Ego collapse happens when someone has built their identity around a very specific image. And for Anton, that would be success, authority, leadership, being the smartest person in the room. And then that image starts getting challenged publicly. When that happens, the brain does not interpret criticism as disagreement. It interprets it as a threat to identity. And when identity feels threatened, people don't always respond with reflection. Sometimes they respond with control, retaliation, and exposure. Because the goal is no longer to debate the criticism. The goal becomes to restore dominance in the narrative. And that's where the situation starts to get interesting, because the response we're seeing now isn't just debate or commentary anymore. We're watching reputations, criminal records, and personal information start getting pulled into the fight. So now I know they all say that it's all fair in love and war, but rarely is doxing actually fair. It's literally used as a humiliation tactic on YouTube, or it's something that people do in order to halt growth. So when larger content creators do it, it can only mean I'm trying to humiliate this person. And a lot of people do not like what he did, and they believe that he's out of pocket. And while I agree, he is definitely out of pocket, I also believe that fair exchange is no robbery. Let me explain. But first, let's see the reaction from Lkesha herself.
You're going to be Big Mac. See, you started it, and here's the deal, though, Anton. I wouldn't have cared if you did a video talking about me. People do videos all the time talking. I let them folks do what they do, because I feel like as a content creator, we do talk about other people. Unfortunately, people gonna talk about us. Sometimes they lie, and I kind of gotten over that. Let people do what they do. But you kind of like did it the wrong way, though. You kind of went like to the left, because I really have a background check on you, and I didn't even really look at it, because I was like, you know what? I don't want to get in there, but you took it here, Anton. So we here, and Anton, I'm gonna put this out there. I'm going to say allegedly, because like I said, I have your background check. Anton, wasn't your daughter arrested though? Was your daughter arrested? Why are you talking about my old ass being arrested? Yeah, I was arrested before. Yeah, long time ago. But was your daughter arrested is the question, because I didn't want to put that out there, because I was like, that's kind of petty. But while we talking about folks being arrested, was your daughter arrested? Was your daughter arrested, Anton? Anton, was your daughter, or let me look at the camera when I say this, because see, I didn't even want to go here, but since we here, let me make sure I got my Anton. Was your daughter arrested? Because the report that I got that I didn't want to put out, I wasn't going to say nothing about it. Was your daughter arrested? And if so, put in the chat, what for? You want to talk about folks being arrested. Was your daughter arrested? That's the question. I mean, I'm just asking, because the report that I was provided, it said Anton and then Leslie. I think it said Leslie or something was arrested. I ain't really looked into it, but what is that all about? What is that? Since we putting it all out there on the line.
So obviously, Lakeisha found out that he put her information out there and she wasn't happy about it. And honestly, who would be? Because once somebody puts your personal history on the internet like that, especially in front of a large audience, you can't really control where that information goes after that. A lot of time with doxing information, it doesn't tell the full story. And the doxer is typically not trying to tell the full picture. They won't discuss dismissed charges, thrown out charges, dispositions of cases. They just want to throw the people out there so that the rest of the online community can attack them. But here's where the situation starts to get even messier. Because when people feel publicly humiliated online, the instinct is usually not to calm things down. The instinct is to strike back. And baby, I have held that instinct before and executed. So baby, look, as you can see, this situation just keeps escalating. Because as you can see, in response to being doxxed, Lkesha ended up mentioning Anton Daniels' minor child and alleging that the child had some kind of record. Now, I'm going to be very clear here. I don't know whether the information is legitimate or not. And to be honest, I don't even feel comfortable entertaining it too much because we're talking about a minor, which is why I don't even tend to believe it, because minors' records are not available for public consumption. And in most spaces, children are considered off limits. Now, look, I'm not naive. I understand that when people feel attacked online, they respond in all kinds of ways. And I don't sit around policing how people decide to respond to backlash, because baby, when you come for me, I take it all the way to hell. But only if you got a little traction. I'm not arguing no scrubs. You know, by the way, this is a new channel. I've had much larger channels. I had to start over. So yeah, don't get it twisted. I'm not arguing with no scrubs. So you need a sub count to beef with me, and you need views. But I personally come from a mindset where children are off the table unless somebody brings them to the table first. Now, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I'm not going to defend my family. If somebody comes after my child first, I'm not going to lie. That will be a different conversation, because if it's about my child, it's going to be about yours too. But to just introduce somebody's child into an internet dispute out of nowhere, that's usually a line that most women don't cross. Although I do know a few felonious Felicias that love to bring people's kids into everything. I mean, it does happen, y'all. And this is what shows you just how far these internet conflicts can spiral once retaliation becomes the main goal. Now, here's where I bring up the idea that some people live by, and that's that fair exchange is no robbery. Because while people are looking at Anton Daniels and saying that doxing someone is crossing the line, some viewers are also saying that just a few days ago, Lakeisha herself may have engaged in something very similar. The other day, it was brought to my attention that Lakeisha was discussing the ongoing drama between Cardi B and Tasha K. Now, she seems to lean more on the side of Cardi B, and that's fine. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. Some women support Cardi, some women support Tasha, and some people don't care either way. And by the way, if you're interested in what actually happened during the Tasha K trial, the things that people don't talk about and some information that has never made it into public conversation, make sure you subscribe, because I have some content coming out soon that might change a few perspectives. So Lakeisha began discussing the case, which is perfectly fine. I talk about court cases all the time. I dig into documents, background checks, filings, things that most people don't even know how to locate. Baby, I can find it. But the issue started when the conversation shifted to Tasha K's supporters. For years now, some of Tasha K's supporters have encouraged her to use crowdfunding to help offset the judgment she owes from the Cardi B lawsuit. Eventually, which is very recently, she decided to go ahead and accept that support. And Lakeisha took issue with that. She began making commentary about it, poking fun at the situation, which again, commentary is commentary. That's not unusual on YouTube. But then the tone escalated. She started alleging that Tasha K was committing bankruptcy fraud. She also alleged that Tasha and her husband were scammers. At one point, she even compared Tasha to Anton Daniels and suggested that they were all operating in similar ways. And the situation escalated further when Lakeisha posted a call to action on her community wall, encouraging her audience to report Tasha K for bankruptcy fraud. She included Tasha's legal name and even posted the bankruptcy case number. Now, in my opinion, that begins to move into territory that some people would consider doxing as well. Because the truth of the matter is that both of these behaviors, what Anton Daniels did and what Lakeisha may have done, can run directly into YouTube community guidelines. Doxing is against the rules. Sharing or targeting information about minors is also against the rules. And organizing a call to action where people are encouraged to mass report an individual is also something that YouTube specifically discourages. And lastly, there's another interesting layer to this conversation that I want to bring up. One of the main arguments people make when discussing the Cardi B and Tasha K case is that Tasha lost the lawsuit because of defamation. But that raises a question for me. If someone publicly tells their audience that Tasha K is committing bankruptcy fraud, when there are no charges or convictions for bankruptcy fraud, could that potentially be considered defamation as well? Lkesha has also referred to Tasha and her husband as African scammers. Yet there are no criminal records indicating that either of them have been charged with or convicted of scamming. Those are serious allegations to make about somebody publicly. And in today's environment, we've seen more and more lawsuits being filed against bloggers and online commentators. So I think it raises a fair question. Should Tasha K be considering legal action if she believes those statements are false and damaging to her reputation? Should Anton Daniels be seeking some sort of legal counsel regarding Lkesha alleging that his minor child had a criminal record? Is that something that should even be on the table? Because if someone believes that Cardi B was justified in suing Tasha K for defamation, but then turns around and publicly makes similar allegations about Tasha without proof, some people might see that as a bit hypocritical. And some people might feel like Anton is actually justified in doxing Lkesha because the day before, Lkesha actually went into the chat of No Captivity, Freezies, shout out to him, and super chatted that she was reading into Anton Daniels' background. At some point, these internet battles stop being about truth and start becoming fights over reputation. And when that happens, everybody involved has to ask themselves the same question. Are we exposing problems or are we slowly becoming the problem? And the audience should always ask themselves, what is this person's motivation? And literally check the channel of the people that are making these allegations. A lot of times they're clickbait titles and just weird channels. And so I want to hear from y'all. Do you think Lakeisha crossed the line that she accuses others of crossing? Or do you think this is just normal internet commentary and it's okay to throw scamming allegations on people? Do you think that Anton Daniels was justified in doxing Lakeisha and putting her pictures out and her legal name allegedly? What do you guys think? Because, honey, it is all nuanced and it is a mixed bag of nuts. But if you like my commentary, please click like, comment, and subscribe. And if you don't like it, you can still comment, you can still subscribe because, baby, you are bound to return and find something that will entertain you or be of intellectual benefit.